we'll choose 2 of the red 1.5-inch wires. I believe that's their length. And connect them up to the C5K stability pot. In this case, they're going to be plugged into row B, column 12. We'll start with the leftmost connection on the C5K pot, the clockwise connection, and it will go up to B12. Make sure it stays in the pot. It looks like it popped out there. Oh, she's got it back in. And then the wiper will go to B11. If we bend that around the edge real nice and sharp, it should stay in place better. So plug in the next one to the wiper, the middle connection. And that goes up to B11. Once again, bend that wire nice and snug around the edge so it stays in place. Now, ultimately, we're going to be putting on a synthetic elastic band that will hold all the wires in place that are in the pots so they can't pop out. And when the Inventobox has been assembled and that lid has been placed on the spot where it ends up, none of the wires can pop out of the surface of the experimenter socket because the height is too close to the bottom of the enclosure. They can't get out, so that they stay in there. You can also put in a piece of foam. We're going to take a jumper, like we did with 2 of the other pots, and put it in between the wiper and the counterclockwise pin, which is on the far right. Push that in with a little screwdriver. That helps stabilize the control and makes it so that it doesn't make as much noise when it's turned. It will still be scratchy because there's DC on that pot, but it won't be as scratchy if you have that jumper in there, especially as the pot gets older. That says JMP right there. She's pointing to the spot that says jumper. We have a jumper that needs to be installed on the Fuzz factory to make it operational, and it has to be placed in row J, column 16 and 17. Now, I don't think I've explained this before, but on that experimenter socket, at any numbered column, you'll see there are 6 holes next to each other. For example, row 17, right there where she's going to be plugging in that jumper. Letters G, H, I, J, K, and L are all connected together in column 17. The same thing with column 16. G, H, I, J, K, and L are all shorted together on the inside with a metal clip. That's how the thing works. The pin on the module that's aligned with any one of those numbered columns can be connected to via any of the holes in that same column. So there are 6 on one side, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then there are G, H, I, J, K, L on the other side that are all shorted together. And the thing that separates them is that little valley down the center. Next, we're going to plug in the transistors. These are transistors Q2 and Q3. Q is a letter that's used to indicate a transistor, and these are germanium transistors. They come in a metal package, and there's an emitter, a base, and a collector on the bottom. Now, that's not of a lot of consequence, but the letters E, B, and C are labeled on the module, and they're next to each other, E, B, and C. E is the one that's closest to that little sharp square tab that sticks out right there where she's pointing to it with the screwdriver. It's a little sharp metal tab. It's very square looking, and it sticks right out of the side of the transistor. That's where E is. So that's how you orient the thing. Now, the 2 is exactly upside down right now, and that's perfect. That's how it should be when it goes in. It'll go into, what is that, 13, 14, and 15. So plug that transistor in. You'll know when it's right because it'll be right next to the jumper without touching it. And transistor Q3, which is labeled with the number 3, goes in next on the other side of the jumper in 18, 19, and 20. Once again, look at the little metal tab. Make sure that that points toward E because that's the pin E for emitter and plug it in where you see the E right there on the module. So that metal tap should be pointing right at E in 18, 19, and 20. Push it in nice and firm. Now you might be wondering, if we just put in transistors Q2 and Q3, where is Q1? Q1 is actually on the module itself. It's on the Fuzz Factory module. It's a small black square, and it's a silicon transistor. It's a more modern transistor. Those germaniums are a little more old-fashioned, and they're bigger, so I made them go flush up onto the experimenter socket by not mounting them on the board. Also, they can be replaced. You can change them to different models of transistors if you want. You can try anything you want in there. Any kind of PNP transistor you can find. Next, we're going to hook up the input and output cables. And this time we're going to hook it up so it's just the Super Hard-On and the Fuzz Factory alone. Maybe that's all you want, is just a plain Fuzz Factory and a Super Hard-On. So the way you do that would be to take those first two jacks in the lower row, and if you're working in a dark environment, you'll want to turn on the work light. Those first two jacks, the first one is input. Make sure that the key goes into that little keyway slot at the top. Push it in nice and firm till it clicks. And then hook up the red wire to the input connection on the Inventobox module. We'll get to that as soon as we plug in this other cable. This is going to be for the output connection. Now once again, we choose two of the E2 shielded cables to do this if we're not going to use the tone stack module. We're just going to hook up the Fuzz Factory alone. Now we'll take those two E2 cables which are plugged into the input and output, and we'll connect them to, that's the input there on the board in column 11. We'll start by hooking up the ground, connect to column 12. It's rather arbitrary, but that's the one I chose, with the black wire. And then the red wire we'll plug into column 11, L11, to hook up the input. That's going to the input cable. And now we select the output cable, and we'll plug it into the output column, which is column 12. So that red wire will go into L12, making sure that the metal on the plug there doesn't short out against the transistor case, and there should be enough space. It shouldn't even really come close, but it is the nearest object. Use the screwdriver to push that in all the way. Gives you a little more precise placement of pressure. And then we'll hook up the ground wire for that one. Oh, it's a little tangled. We'll tuck it underneath there. Hook that up to column 11 in the black row. Remember that all of the connections in the black row are all connected together, the ground row. And at the end they're connected to ground with that little red jumper going into that ground clip on the right. That's called a bus, when they're all connected together in one long row like that. And now the thing is done. It's ready to play. You've got Fuzz Factory in channel 1, Super Hard-On in channel 2, and you can put it together and play.